Let's have a look into selecting and deselecting in Rhino. So selecting in Rhino is very easy. It's just a basic click on the object that you want to select. If you want to add other objects, you need to hold down the Shift key and then you can add more objects. By hitting Ctrl, you can deselect the object and then still keeping the previously selected ones. You can also drag your mouse from left to right. So here only the objects that are inside the square will be selected. If we do it in an opposite direction, we will pick anything that is overlapping. So here these two objects are overlapping, or these three, even though they are not completely covered by the square, they will be selected. So you can also select objects by edit menu and then select object. Here you can find all the different type of geometries. Even you can select by layer, color, or even object name. Let's get a closer view to user options. Rhino allows you to modify basic user interface options so you can work more comfortable. So you can go to Tools menu and Options. You can type in the command line also options to access to the Rhino option window. So here there is a lot of information, but we will just go through the few more important. So for example, the units, is very important to always check that you have the right units. So here you can just modify them, and tolerances. The aliases is actually very convenient that by working in Rhino you get used to your own shortcuts. So you can define your shortcuts here. For the appearance, actually it's sometimes necessary to change colors, like for example the background. You can define a different one. There is also at the bottom another pretty useful options like display modes. So here you can change the properties of every display mode. For example, if you are in shaded view, you can change the way how geometry is displayed. So you can make lines thicker, or you can say only draw the edge of surfaces, or even the color, the way how is represented into your viewport. Let's continue on how to work with layers in Rhino 6. So the layer panel can be found on the right side of the Rhino screen. I will tell you what you should not do, and it is to work on the default layer. So please just add new layers, and then this will help you a lot in your workflow. So let's write a name for this new layer. It can be curve, it can be surface, and one more cube. So now we are gonna select the object that we wanna move into every new created layer. So this needs to be brought to surface and then to cube. So now we have every object in a different layer. So here now we can see and hide the different geometries. We can lock them. We can color the layers. This is also very convenient to do because it will help you a lot. You can also rearrange the order of the layers. You can select the objects inside of the layer. So right now we have not many, so it's actually very easy, but imagine that you have thousands of objects inside and they are all combined with different layers. So this is the way how you can access to all these different geometries inside of each layer. If you want to delete the layer, it won't let you do it in a first step, because if you have geometries inside the layer, it will always give you this warning window. If you want to delete it anyway, you can just go ahead and delete it. You can also duplicate layers and objects. This is actually pretty handy feature where you can just, for example, this is cube 2, and now if we lock the previous one, we can just use the gumball to move, and we see that we have two different objects. In order to improve your workflow in Rhino, you will need to use, in a very well organized and well named, the layer structure. Let's continue in how to move objects in Rhino. So you can move objects in many different ways. So the very first and most intuitive way is just to drag it around. So you can make click on the object, and just by keeping the press in the mouse, you can drag it to a different location. So with it you will move it, but you are very imprecise. So let's Control C to step back. A different way how to move an object. So a different way how to move object is just by typing move command. First you need to select the object and then enter. This is a 2 points move command. So first you need to define from where you want to move the object, and then you need to define your second location. So now you can just click in any part of your viewport, and then this object will be moved. But you can also type a specific distance, like for example 50. So now we have moved our cube 50 units to the X direction. So let's try to move again, and now we can select a different snap on the bottom of the window. So for example, if you just want to grab from the middle of your geometry, you can just deselect all the rest and keep just the midpoint. So now if we try to get closer to the geometry, you see that the midpoint is selected, and from there you can just select another midpoint, and we can define the new position by typing move and then select the object, enter, and we can grab our object from one location, and we can press Shift. By pressing Shift we can lock the directionality of, so this can be in the X direction or Y. So we can also change to lateral view, and then we can keep the Shift, and we can define a certain distance by typing first a distance, then pressing Shift and enter. So let's continue with another basic transformation feature, and this is rotate. So rotation commands has two different flavors, and this is 2D rotate and 3D rotate. So we can basically type rotate, or you can come to the icon here. So let's do right click for 2D rotate, and now you need to select the object in, for example, perspective viewport. Press enter. Now it's asking for a center of rotation. So we can say this is going to be our center of rotation, but there is no OSNAP activated. So let's go and activate endpoint. So now it's activated, and we can just by eyeball approximation rotate our geometry. We can also give a specific angle by typing it into our command line. Press enter. A different way how to rotate objects in Rhino is to rotate 3D. So let's go again to the same icon, and now by right clicking on top of it, we just need to do the same approximation. So select object to rotate, press enter when done, and now it's asking for a different type of information. This is start of rotation axis. So we will need to give our axis from where we want to rotate. So let's say that we want to rotate along the diagonal of our cube. So let's select our diagonal, and now Rhino identifies this as our rotation angle. We can have a bit more control while rotating when, for example, by 3D rotation, we select again, we go to our diagonal. So now actually we can press Shift and we can activate the right angle. So here we can define exactly a 90 degrees angle without typing any number. In order to finish with our basic transformations, so let's have a look into scale. In Rhino 6 you can use different scaling methods by scaling in 1D, 2D or 3D. So we can just go to the scale icon and open the cascade. So here you see the scale 3D, scale 2D and scale 1D. So let's focus on these three. If we want to use the scale 1D, let's left click on our mouse and now select object to scale, press enter. We can select a origin and then select our second point, and we see that we can modify our geometry in this direction. We could just click again and then give a random distance, but let's say we want to type a precise measurement, so let's type 25. So now our cube will turn into 25 units in X direction. So if we Ctrl C, we can undo and again go to the scaling icon. First we select the object, press enter, and we can click again in one point of our geometry, and before we press any other point of reference, we can just give a scaling factor. So let's say we want to scale up our geometry by 1.5. So let's press enter, and our cube was deformed in 2D. Let's Ctrl C, and finally we are gonna scale 3D, and let's do again the same step. Select object and press enter. Finally we just need to select our base point from scaling, and we can again give a different factor like 2 and press enter. So in this case our cube, it's the double of the size.